I hope the discussion Miranda and I have this episode on intuition and belonging, our core values, will inspire you to live your own core values more fully every day. This is episode 6 of season 1, The Power of Purpose. I am Sam Henninger, the courage coach for executives, and your host. Here, you can learn to make tough decisions through emotional intelligence and collaboration, to grow outside of your comfort zone through humble self-awareness, and to love your life by being truly honest with yourself and others. Subscribe and share with your friend. We release new episodes every Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Intuition and belonging.
Yes.
Your voice is feeling better.
Much better. Hopefully it carries through on the sound.
Yeah, I think we're good. So this time, I want you to lead off.
Okay. Yeah. So intuition and belonging. We are on our...
This is number 5.
Round 5.
Yeah.
It's going by fast.
Yeah.
Intuition. I think it's really interesting that you have intuition, because I think we usually hear of intuition as like mother's intuition.
Yeah.
And so it seems more of like a feminine trait, even though like it's not feminine or masculine at all. It's just a natural instinct.
Well, but, I was just going to say, there's mother's intuition, but there's dad instinct. Mm-hmm. Think of all those video compilations of dads saving their kids
in the last split second.
Yeah, just quick draw, super fast reaction time. Yeah, I hadn't thought of that, connecting intuition and instinct and contrasting them. The reason I put intuition, I think, has a lot to do with what has come up for me in the past month or two, especially given the 10-day intensive that I took as part of my executive coaching certification, where it was 8 straight hours a day for 10 days straight of just pure being in the moment with other people, going deep and learning to trust myself. Mm. That, again, relates back to my value of integrity. But intuition, it has a lot to do with patterns, recognition of patterns, and being able to trust that the inclinations, the inklings that I receive during the course of a conversation or just in reflection by myself, it's proven to be very important, because I've felt the trouble in my life where I didn't trust that. Mm-hmm. I didn't listen to my intuition. And I'm not saying that like I'm all knowing or anything, but often there are things that we know subconsciously. Yeah. Well, I mean, people can trust their gut and still be wrong. Right.
And intuition isn't being all knowing. It's like just that gut instinct.
Yeah. So I'm saying that intuition isn't infallible, but distrusting your intuition can really put you at odds with yourself and your own self-development.
Well, and I think like whenever you distrust that, then that's kind of, it's telling yourself to not have that integrity that is so valuable to you too, because you're saying, well, that part of myself isn't true.
Yeah.
And which puts you at odds with knowing how to respond and how to be you.
This is something I still struggle with even now in terms of not trusting my intuition when it comes to color and design. Mm-hmm. Miranda, I trust her a lot on these things when it comes to the business and other parts of life, because I don't know, I don't understand what goes together, what looks nice. Mm. I don't know how to make that happen. The way I interact with the arts is through a different vein. Mm-hmm. I am much more of a performer than
a creator.
However you want to say that. Working with shapes and colors and things like that. I have a very strong distrust of my own thoughts, on that. I don't know how to put an outfit together for myself because I don't know what looks good. And this is an active struggle that I'm having. But where I want to get to is, again, like serving up the ladder of my values towards integrity. I want to be able to trust the things I know, even if it's subconscious. A lot of the time, intuition, you're not actively thinking, I connected all the dots and now I'm going to do this or say this or whatever. It's a lot quicker than that. It's instinctual. I want to be able to trust my instincts. And a lot of that just comes down to confidence.
Well, and practice. And
practice. Yeah.
I think there's a lot that comes into like just practicing. With our son, this is sort of related, but he is in gymnastics and he's 4 and he is able to see like where he lacks, I feel like. For a while, he hated doing cartwheels, like practicing the cartwheels. He's been sticking with it and following the encouragement of his teacher. And he still can't do a cartwheel, but he's so much closer at doing a cartwheel and trusting himself because he's practicing. Even in my speech, instead of saying, oh, well, let's do this, I say, well, let's practice this. Because that's where being able to do something does become instinctual whenever he needs to pull on that later. Whether that's something with gymnastics or interacting with his sister or whatever, but just using that phrase, well, let's practice it because it doesn't have to be perfect. It's something that we're learning.
I love that you brought up practice because this rings so true to me for everything I know about how I understand myself, my personality, the way I show up best and grow. There's this tension between wanting to do things right, wanting to trust my intuition. But the reality is the intuition is based off of a lot of practice that has now been condensed, purified into that intuition. And so it takes conscious effort to remember and to act with this remembrance that for all the intuition I do have, all the experience I do have that has crystallized into something useful, I still need to keep practicing to gather more.
Well, and then I think there's also like this aspect of intuition that comes from a higher power, where you are receiving answers to prayers that whether are voiced or just in your heart, where you are open to those things coming to you. And when you follow those will always lead you on the best path for you, is our belief.
Yeah.
If it's just something that's coming purely just from you, then that's where that intuition might lead you off the path that you are meant to be on.
Well,
and I say the path that you're meant to be on because God doesn't always have the same plans as we do.
Sure. I want to dive into that deeper because there's at least four sides to this. There's listening to your own voice and getting the right answer. There's listening to your own voice and not getting the right answer. There's listening to God, getting the right answer. There's listening to God and still feeling like, wait a second, what's going on?
Yeah.
Confusion. It can be easy to think that intuition just means I'm just going to listen to my heart and it's going to lead me on the right path.
Right.
So it's not infallible. It's not always going to send you the right direction. There's more information to gather to make smart decisions. But again, it comes back to a lack of trust in the intuition. You can trust your intuition and also gather more information to make better choices.
Yeah.
But the challenge is in recognizing that sometimes your intuition or God, the right answer is going to be the thing that challenges you. It's going to be the answer you didn't want. And often, when we are too wrapped up in our own egos, we will never even arrive at asking the question that gets us the answer we don't want.
Right.
So to me, intuition has a lot to do with humility as well.
Yeah. I love that you bring up asking the right question, which you're like the question guy.
This is this is my thing.
Yeah.
Apparently.
But like arriving to that right question to get those answers that you need and not just the answers that you want. I think that's really important in being able to use intuition. Otherwise, it doesn't matter where your gut is leading you. You aren't going to get to the places that you want or need to be.
Yeah. I'm reminded of, take for instance, Indiana Jones, Raiders of the Lost Ark, where there's the walk of faith, the invisible bridge. Remember that challenge near the end? That it requires a leap of faith. When I think about that, I also think about, for instance, for any of you who remember the show Lost, there is a great character that I very strongly identify with, John Locke. He's a paraplegic man, ended up in a plane crash, survived a plane crash, regained his ability to walk. And so he just gave his life to God and just lived completely by faith and really challenged this other character who was very much the rational minded guy, Jack. But these two examples really demonstrate to me that the things that sometimes you are called to do, the answers that you get, are the ones that are not logical, are maybe sometimes seem to be evidently harmful to what's going on to you in your life. Like the leap of faith, the invisible bridge with Indiana Jones. Jump into a chasm. That's what it looks like. But exercising faith shows you that it's more than that. For me, intuition means with this combination of humility, knowing that my intuition is not infallible, but trusting it is part of what's going to get me to the right answer. And then recognizing that sometimes the question and the answer that's going to get you where you truly do want to go in life is going to be the thing that confuses you. It scares you. I know for me, there have been many times where I've been having a prayer in my heart of like, what do I need to do? And it's usually, you need to go talk to this person. Like, initiating conversations can be so hard for me.
Yeah.
Intuition is not just this one-dimensional, go with your gut kind of thing. There's a lot of layers to it that I want to make sure is communicated and refined. Well,
and I want to back up a little bit to something that you said a minute ago. Like with intuition, it leads you to looking for more answers. I don't remember how you exactly said it. I liked it because the intuition that you receive, you want to find something to back it up. Because if it's the correct way, there's going to be something somewhere to back that information up so that you are going on a good path. You're having that check and balance with it rather than just saying, oh, well, this is what I feel like I need to do, so I'm just going to do it. And I think that helps to determine on if it's just wishful thinking or actually that true intuition.
There's this great clip from years and years ago at this point. I remember watching in one of my psychology classes. I think it was social psychology. This video shows some guy at a music festival just off on his own on the side of a grassy hill, just jamming out, just having a grand old time, just dancing by himself. And everyone's just like walking past him, sort of giving him his space and all that. But then one guy goes up next to him and starts dancing with him. And they start having a grand old time. And then within literally under 60 seconds, it becomes like a mosh pit. Because one guy turns into two, into three, then a big group comes in. And I remember that the object of that lesson there was, you're not a leader until you have followers.
Yeah.
But once you have followers, it becomes that much easier to get more. The thing about intuition, like you were saying, is you can just go off gut instinct and say, this is what I'm going to do, and provide no justification for it.
Mm-hmm.
Some people do that. The people that are successful at that, even if they remain tight-lipped and give no justification of their own, people start to notice when they see the results.
Mm-hmm.
It's always going to be the results. And so, in so much as you can pair, and this is what I've struggled with. Like I'm learning actively at 30, you know, how to be more conscious of this, of pairing my gut instinct, my intuition, my forward vision of where I want to be, where I want our family to be, where I want the business, each of my clients to be, how I can support them in that, pairing that with facts in the present.
Mm-hmm.
That's, to me, that's the challenge.
Right.
Is finding all of the information that supports it. You might call it confirmation bias. People are really quick to shoot things down when they just sniff like, well, you're just trying to look for the answers you want.
Mm-hmm.
But to me, part of the information gathering is gathering the supporting evidence, but then also gathering the critique.
Yeah.
And seeing which still stands up against critique.
Mm-hmm.
So I think if you stop halfway through and only gather confirming evidence without critiques, then you need to think a little more deeply on that.
Mm-hmm.
But the full process is, I think, I won't say perfect, but definitely useful.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's important to also note that the extent of this would also be depending on the gravity of the question being asked. Like, if you are looking for a new TV and trying to determine between the many, many options out there, like, you pretty much can just go off of like, oh yeah, like this is what I feel like is the best option. You don't need to dwell on it for years.
Right. One thing that I hear a lot on social media about the mindset of rich people, wealthy people, is that they make big decisions fast. They're closing 7, 8, 9 figure deals just in a split second. It's like yes or no kind of deal. And you can look at that and think, well, that's their intuition. That's all of their experience of amassing the wealth they have to be able to make these big decisions. I'm reminded of one of the first financial education books I read, The Millionaire Next Door, that really hits on this idea that there is a cost benefit analysis to make about, okay, how much energy are you actually putting into this decision?
Yeah. Well, and I think even to remember, like, these guys that are making these really big deals super fast, like, they've also had years and years and years of experience.
Yeah.
They know what makes a good company, what makes a bad company, and what breaks a company. And so they can quickly gather the necessary information rather than all of the excess. And you can also, like, so they have that, but they also have their intuition of working with people and, like, being able to read people, because they've had thousands of conversations with people and interactions with people to understand, okay, well, what is this looking like? But also, you have no idea what research they did before that decision was made.
Sure.
Like, I'm sure, like, whenever they know that they're going into a business deal, they're doing whatever research that they can, or having a team do whatever research they can.
More likely.
To get the information that is needed for them to be able to make that quick decision in the moment.
I'm reminded of the movie Moneyball. So, baseball movie. I don't remember all the details. I was a Red Sox fan back in 2004. That's about all. As much baseball as I'm used to. But the thrust of that story of Moneyball is the far and away most accepted way of recruiting players and playing the game at that point in baseball's history was relying on a team of scouts who, just through the years, their decades of experience, they could see the potential. They could see the skill in each of these players and bring them on to their teams and stuff. But it didn't work out all the time. Mm-hmm. What actually worked was using statistics, like gamifying it, putting it all on spreadsheets and just making sure you got the people who could get on base.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's all you needed to do, because the baseball is getting runs, and you get runs by getting on base. So it was simplifying, just making it super rational, tactical, getting the intuition out of it, or at least not relying on it 100%.
Right.
So what we're saying here is I want to fully honor the power, the mystery, the majesty of intuition.
Right.
In the fullness of however hippy dippy moonchild you want to get with it. That's there. When it's paired, like it's great on its own, but when it's paired with this evidence gathering, this supporting logic and rationale, then it becomes deadly, I'd say. Just, you can do anything.
In good ways.
Deadly in a good way. Yeah, deadly in a good way.
Yeah.
I think we've really hit on intuition.
Well, I have one more
Okay,
question.
please. Yeah, let's...
So, and this goes all the way back to the beginning. So when introducing intuition, you commented that, like, about it more recently. So is this another one of those that is more transient for you? Where it's more of a new, not so transient, but more of a newly developed value?
Yeah, again, going back to the beginning, I think it's one that has definitely become more top of mind for me recently. I think it's something I've always valued, but I didn't know how to honor it all the time, which is why I spent a lot of time talking about how learning to transform distrust in my gut towards trust. And I think this is the way you do it.
Yeah.
Is that you take your inclinations, you find out the evidence that supports it, you find out then the evidence that can stand up to criticism, and then you fold that in to your next inclination. And then that's the process.
Yeah.
The challenge will always be then for people like me to remember that is a process. You're never done. And that can be a tension, because you have to trust in the decisions you make with the information you have at that time. But then you also have to trust that you can make adjustments as new information comes in and colors the effects of the decision you already made.
Yeah, I love that.
I want to talk about belonging with you. A lot of your values so far, when you see them on paper, they look so self-evident. And this is probably what you're going to see in your own exercise, especially if you do it with your spouse, or you do it with one of your good work buddies, someone on your management team. A lot of these things are going to seem self-evident, but the power of having these kinds of conversations is diving deeper.
Right.
So tell me, why belonging?
I mean, belonging, it's that goes into like every facet of life. And I think it comes down to a feeling confident in your place in your life. Whether like, and that can come down to like as minutely as like an individual, like, which kind of sounds weird for like belonging. Usually you think like big groups, but like feeling like you belong as yourself. It goes out where you belong in your family, and you belong in your friend group, and in your church group, and your work group, and in your community. Like it goes, it's a ripple effect. And it all starts with the individual. Because if you don't feel comfortable as yourself, then there's no way that you're going to feel comfortable as a family unit. Whether that's like you and your spouse and your kids, or extended family, because you're always going to be second guessing if they actually like you, if they're just putting on a show. And that goes with any social circle, where if you aren't confident in belonging to and with yourself, then you're never going to be confident in any social circle.
How do you belong within yourself? How would you say that? What does that mean?
I think that's feeling comfortable with yourself.
Hmm.
And I think that also like ties into the integrity that we've talked about. But like having that confidence of, okay, this is who I am. These are things that I like. These are things that I don't really care for. This is how I want to live my life. This is how I want to show up to people around me, or show up to like tasks or challenges in my life. Because everyone approaches a challenge differently. And there's so many ways that you can approach a challenge. There's no one right way. Feeling confident in yourself. And that can be a challenge, especially in our society today, where we are constantly told, well, this cookie cutter person is who you should be. Like you have the moms of Instagram or like whatever. Like there's, I think everyone feels this, but I think particularly as a mom, like you feel it a lot too, because there's so much that is expected where if you are a stay-at-home mom, then I think really all moms, like you're expected to have the kids and have the minivan, the nicely decorated home that's always clean, and the perfectly portioned and balanced meals that are always Instagram worthy. And like you have all of these things where you feel like you have to do all of it, where the laundry is always clean and folded and put away, and the dishes are always put away and clean, and toys are never left out, and you have all of these things that are the ideal. But in addition to that, you also have to be a certain size and body type and whatever. But if you only look at that cookie cutter perfect image, then you will never feel like you belong. And you'll never feel like you can even hope to belong. Because that's not who you are. I mean, that's not who anybody is. If you are, I think you would probably be a terrifying person to be around. Because those are all things that you have to be very precise and regimented, and kids don't allow for, like, kids do like routine, but they're not robots. And they will push your buttons and things will happen and things will be delayed because kids don't want to cooperate. And so like you can't have that precise regiment that would require that ideal image that is portrayed so frequently in media, or even I think more specifically in social media, because everyone always puts that best foot forward, regardless of what it looks like behind the scenes. Being able to make your own ideal a personal ideal and say, okay, well, what is really most important to me? Because something has to give somewhere. And I think there's certain things that are important to me, like trying to be as healthy as we can by being deliberate with the things that we're eating, making sure that the foods that we're offering our kids are a variety rather than the same 3 or 4 things all the time, because variety allows them to get the nutrients that they need. And if we're eating something new, talking about it and saying, okay, well, like these are things that can help your body to grow healthy and strong. And so like looking at things that are important and making that own ideal as an individual and allowing yourself to belong to your own personal social circle. It's where it starts.
How do you see that relating to what we talked about with intuition?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think you can use intuition to say, okay, well, what is most important to me? What are the characteristics that I need to focus on to be satisfied with me. Because there's so many different things that you can pick, but you can only pick so many. And I think allowing for that to naturally come out is going to be the best way, because that's coming from you rather than coming from an external source of the world.
Another thing, I think it's really interesting that you framed belonging as an inside out approach to life. That it begins with you. It starts with you. That's the show's motto. It starts with you. When I've seen I'm inclined to believe a popular opinion that it's other people's responsibility to make me feel comfortable, to make me feel like I belong. It still veers toward, well, it's someone else's responsibility to make me feel included. How does that factor into your idea of belonging?
I think there is an aspect of that too, because no matter how comfortable you are with yourself, if the people around you just turn their back and ignore you, like you're not going to feel like you belong in that situation. So like there is an aspect of reaching out to others and including them in belonging. So like it's a team effort. It's a group effort. It's a community effort. But it can't fall on one person. So it's not always the other person's responsibility to make you feel included. If you want to feel included, make someone else feel included.
Yeah.
Some of the best ways that I've made friends is looking for others that are either new or don't have a lot of friends or seem to sit on the sidelines more, and helping them feel included, asking about their day, asking if they are having struggles, what's going well, what's not, finding common ground. Like I'm of course thinking of other moms because that's where I'm at, but like getting to know things that you have in common, and that will bind you together and help you feel like you belong. But it's a relationship. It's not something that is completely the responsibility of someone else. Because if that's what it is, that's not belonging. That's owning.
Whoa. Wait, so are you saying that this attitude of thinking it's someone else's responsibility primarily to help me feel comfortable, that's someone abdicating their self-responsibility?
Yeah. Well, but it's that, but it's also trying to control other people and making, and it's a lack of boundaries because you're trying to push your responsibility of interacting with others onto someone else. It is a lack of confidence in some ways. It's either a lack of confidence or overconfidence. You can go both ways, because if you have a lack of confidence, you aren't truly feeling like you don't have that belonging to yourself. And you feel like, well, I don't accept myself, so why should they accept me? Or you have this God complex where you feel like everyone is here to serve you.
Right.
And so you have those both sides of that spectrum where either you feel overconfident and that no one else is worthy of you, or you feel underconfident, feeling that you aren't worthy of other people.
I can think back just from experience. Again, I in past episodes, I've shared that I've experienced a decade of depression and anxiety in my life. And there have been times where I felt like I didn't belong. I didn't know myself. I didn't accept myself. And so I had this instinctual decision to reject other people's invitations to belong. So it's a dumb self-fulfilling prophecy
Yeah.
that we can get caught up in.
Mm-hmm.
How do you flip that? How do you make it a self-fulfilling prophecy of always belonging?
You have to have that confidence in yourself first. And that can come in several different ways. You can talk to people that are close to you, that are trusted, like even if you don't feel like you belong with them, but like you trust them, whether it's a trusted advisor, a parent, a sibling, a good friend, and say, hey, this is what I'm struggling with. Can you help me? You can make lists of things that you like about yourself, which can be really hard when you don't like yourself. Looking for the good in yourself is just as important as looking for the good in those that are around you. And the more you do that, then the more confidence that you're going to have. And when you say, well, I love me and I'm worthy of being loved, and I have something to offer other people, then the more that you offer that to other people and be yourself, then the more others will reciprocate that and you'll find your place. And that isn't to say that just because you belong with yourself doesn't mean that you're going to belong in every single situation.
You're right.
Like there are going to be situations where you don't belong, and that will be different for everybody because we all have different temperaments. We have different likes. We have different dislikes. We have different ways of communicating. We have different beliefs. And all of those factor in to who we are and where we belong and how we belong.
I'm reminded of Les Miserables, the story of Jean Valjean. It starts out with him, a felon, 19 years, a convict, hard labor, a hardened, cynical thief. First thing he does when he gets out on parole is
steals from a priest.
He steals from a bishop.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, a priest, a man of the cloth, and is immediately caught, immediately brought back to him, and the bishop covers for him. And not only that, he gives him even more to go sell for money.
Right.
After that, Jean Valjean sings a song reflecting on what just happened. The verse that I want to point out in the musical, it goes like this. So Valjean is reflecting on what just happened. It says, "Yet why did I allow that man to touch my soul and teach me love? He treated me like any other. He gave me his trust. He called me brother. My life he claims for God above. Can such things be? For I had come to hate the world, this world that always hated me." And for me, this really encapsulates a lot of what you were just saying. Yeah. In that, even if you were like me at some point in your life where you've already decided that I don't belong, I don't like myself, there are going to be people who believe in you. There are going to be people who refuse to agree with your sense of worthlessness. Yeah.
Well, and those are those trusted people in your life. Whether you trust them or not, they're going to be there. And I guess not trusted, but trustworthy people is a better way to put it.
I think that's so much of what I'm consciously trying to be, not just for myself and for you, but again, for people I work with, especially. Yeah. People need that. Because you're going to feel backed into a corner. You're going to be in a novel situation in your life where you've never had this kind of challenge. You don't know anyone who's been in this kind of challenge. And sometimes it helps to find someone who's been in the same shoes as you have. But more importantly, having someone who trusts and refuses to agree that you aren't up to the task.
Right. Having someone to believe in you.
Yeah. To sum up, because we're going to do our wrap-up questions. Yeah. But to sum up, how do you live belonging?
Yeah. It goes back to that personal aspect. And then believing in myself and being comfortable with myself. But then also reaching out and trying to be that person for other people, where you look for others to include so that they feel like they belong in places that they should belong, even if they don't fit the stereotype of people that would usually be there.
Okay. And how can I support you in living belonging?
Yeah. With supporting, like, living belonging, that it goes back to that teamwork aspect where I belong with you and you belong with me. And helping everyone in those social circles that we are in to say, okay, well, these are the qualities that we bring to the table. These are the qualities that you bring to the table, the ones that I bring to the table, and supporting those. And it brings in integrity and helping me to live to who I am rather than living as I feel like I should be, doing the things that actually bring me joy or bring those that I love joy, rather than doing the things that I feel like everyone else feels like I should do.
Okay. I can help with that. Yeah.
Okay, so what about you? How can I help with this intuition that you've been developing?
Right. I think how it usually comes out day to day is I'll get a flash of inspiration. I'll get some inclination that is intuition to me. And I'll start to chew on it. Having someone to talk to, having someone to bounce ideas off of, to give me supporting evidence, to like help connect dots with me, because that's going to help me see. The intuition alone usually is very much in a baby stage. There may be, I may connect a lot of initial dots that make it seem like a really strong, like, okay, then we gotta go for it. This is great. But the more dots we assemble together, we'll find the best way to go forward with that, to act on it, to not act on it, how to make that decision, what to do. So being the person that can not only like listen to me try to say it out loud, because in the talking about it, usually we start to connect dots better. Right. But also in the information gatherer and sharer, that helps a lot. I know for us right now, looking at houses is something that is really on our mind, wanting to be in our own space. So not just sending me Zillow listings, but other things that might pop into your mind to support or to refine the way I'm thinking about making a particular decision would help. How's that sound to you?
Yeah, I can do that.
Cool. Okay. Well,
so giving background on the pieces, not just sending pieces. Yeah.
Yeah, I think.
So giving background and opinions on the information rather than just information.
Well, right. And so I appreciate you say that. I do want your opinions too. Like just bird dogging a bunch of articles and stuff, that can be beneficial just for me to sort through a lot of data. But you also participating in it, digesting some of this information and seeing what connects for you, and us putting that together, that can really help.
Awesome. I can do that.
Thanks, Miranda.
Thanks, Sam.
I hope you enjoyed our discussion on intuition and belonging. It's not lost on me that these topics have been made famous by people much more popular than we. But the power in having these discussions is in making it our own. I encourage you again to complete this core values exercise and discuss point by point what matters most to you and what matters most to those you care about. The more you do that, the higher fulfillment you're going to feel in your life. Next episode, Miranda and I will discuss my core value of grace and hers of adaptability. I recommend you check out Season 3 of the podcast, Executive Coaching Explained, because in there, I connect the dots between what we're talking about here in Season 1 with how a coach can help you do this very thing powerfully, transformatively, get the most out of your career and at home. You know the world needs more purpose-driven leaders. Be that leader. Remember, it starts with you. I am Sam Henniger, the Courage Coach for Executives. Studies have shown that your brain's ability to successfully convert new information into knowledge that sticks with you can be multiplied 10 to 20 times when a session of learning is concluded with reflection. If you're able, please join me for a few minutes of personal integration. I will close my eyes, inhale through my nose, and exhale through my mouth. I'm thinking of the impressions I received during this episode, connecting new ideas to facts and experiences I already have, and then allowing myself to focus back to the present moment. I'm grateful to have spent this time with you. The music will play us out. Thank you for joining in the journey.